Hey everybody, how y'all doing? First off, I'll make it in the first 30 seconds. iPhone 17 Pro OpenGate is better than Lumix's OpenGate right now in the 6K versus iPhone's, I think it's 4.2K OpenGate. That is my statement right up front. I will say this one more time again. The OpenGate that iPhone 17 has right now is better than the OpenGate that's on the Lumix S1ii. Period. And that's that. But we're going to start there with the conversation. First and foremost, if you are a Lumix user, it's cool. Enjoy your camera. Have a good time with it. Shoot what you're going to shoot. Do your social media stuff, all that stuff there. You do have a great 3.3K OpenGate, 60 frames per second. That's a 422 All Intra. But surprisingly, Apple decided to say, I'm going to throw down the gauntlet. And I'm going to give you not only a 3:2 ratio, I'm going to give you ProRes. I'm going to jump it up to ProRes RAW. I'm going to read all the Bayer data off of the actual sensor, which happens to be a Sony sensor, by the way. And I'm going to give you a Chroma set of 444 versus the long op, or the Panasonic. I'll explain what long op here real quick is. It's a group of pictures stemmed off of one initial picture, and other pictures were kind of copied off of it. 420 Chroma set. What that really means in the end is iPhone gives you 60 seconds, 60 frames per second of real 60 frames of more color and more data to get better color with their Apple Log 2 than the Lumix has with its log. It's 420 and it's grouped up pictures. We really only have like 3 frames per second or 4 frames per second, and the rest are like copies of the original 4 frames shifted a little bit, which really does lower the amount of color you have to work with, which really does make it not as good. And the other part is too, it's a more compact camera for social media stuff if you're doing event type videos, which is what a lot of people have been talking about online when it comes to this, and then resetting the shot later for the social media stuff. And that's amazing. Now, if you happen to use the Blackmagic camera app with this, oh, thank you for jumping in. I appreciate that. If you have any comments, throw them in. Let me put that in there right now. Please feel free to comment. Feel free to comment. I'm multicasting on 4 different areas, so I don't see exactly where you're from, but actually, you're from Facebook. Thank you for jumping on from Facebook. Feel free to comment. Now, here's the thing when it comes to this. The reason why you're looking at the iPhone being better than Lumix is because 1, it's a compact device. 2, it's something you carry with you. 3, it's not obstructive when you're out there trying to catch videos in weddings and events. And 4, you can put it onto a gimbal like this. So this gimbal here is a Zuyan, no, it's what brand is this one? Phayotech. This gimbal has a fan built into it. You can do vertical or you can do horizontal, so you can decide which way you want the 3x2 to go by. It has a fan built into it. It has a power supply built into it, so you can run power to the iPhone if you want to, if you got a splitter. And you have a cold shoe right here where you can put the external hard drive on so that you can record in ProRes RAW All Intra. Now, you can still do a ProRes flavor internally, which is still better than our boy over there with Lumix, which is insane. Thank you for jumping in, watching on A.P.C. Video and audio. Thank you for jumping in there. If you're a fan of Lumix, I get it, because Lumix has been jumping in and hitting Sony and hitting Canon where they've never jumped into the 3:2 ratio. But if you haven't been paying attention to Apple put out a 4.2K ProRes RAW OpenGate 60 frames per second in All Intra. Now, All Intra just really means you do get a true 60 photos per second, which is incredible. Whereas when it's the Lumix, which is a long op, which is basically a group of photos, they take one initial photo of this object here, whatever it is, they take one photo, and then it kind of makes copies of it. And that's just not going to do the job for you. because it's just really not the best situation to be in when it comes to this. Now, if you're cool with that and you say that's going to be more than enough chroma set, or it's going to be more than enough to hit what you want done, cool. I'm okay with that if that's what you like. But to me, what I'm thinking is right now is Canon is the king with the C50 right now with the open gate just in commercial usage. Now, if you're doing like social media events, if you're doing the regular smaller events in the open gate area, you really are at Lumix at its 3.3, which is an All Intra, or iPhone with its ProRes RAW or ProRes and its 3x2 flavor. And you'll get the great look. Right now, I'm shooting in 3x2, so right now I have a really easy ratio to do any like social media cropping. Get you 16:9 and the rest. But I mean, really, if you're looking at technology-wise, iPhone just blew away Lumix without even trying. And then on top of that, with all the kits you can add to an iPhone, so you can add an anamorphic lens, you can add any type of, lens you want to it with these kits. So you can get a zoom and all the rest, and it's amazing what you can do with it. It's getting to the point now, I think, where the spot where the professional cameras and the non-professional cameras are getting fairly close. iPhone's done a really good job with the Pro Max series and all the accessories. Now, it is a smaller sensor, so you're going to have issues in low light and things like that. But if you're not in low light and you're doing some event work, it's actually a pretty cool tool. And it also gives events where they are not looking to put this into a larger perspective. When I say larger perspective, I mean, we're not going to be cropping in much. We're not going to be doing this much. It's just going to jump in the IG and we're going to be done with that. And that's it. It's not going to end up like a bigger screen type thing. It's not going to end up on like a monitor and stuff like that. It really is just going to be on a phone. iPhone's going to be more than enough to do the job if it is a Pro Max and it is shooting in ProRes or ProRes RAW. And with their partnership with Blackmagic and getting the Blackmagic up on there and getting the full control of putting the LUT on, being able to get all your exposure tools, to being able to select your RAW formats and your record ratios. I hate saying this, but the iPhone, and this may sound crazy, is a better tool for that social media shoot in a lot of ways. Now, does that affect us in video productions? Kind of yes, kind of no. I still throw a rental fee on this. So this is a $20 rental fee for this thing right here. If we're doing microphones, it's the same $35 rental fee if I'm using the Rode Wireless Pros, which is what I'm using today. And it is the same $35 rental fee for the phone. Because it really is, I don't use the phone for anything else other than taping with this. And then a hard drive, of course, we charge a $15 fee for the hard drive. Now, that's the one area, though, that a lot of people are going to be a little confused by, but it's a professional work. This is something we do as a professional. This is not a regular rig that you would set up for gimbaling a phone. And it's also designed to handle high heats and everything else and go in almost any scenario you can think of. But imagine this. We now have a camera that's on a gimbal like this, loaded up and everything you need and ready to go, and it's an iPhone. Well, really, it's just a small camera. It's a crash cam that's a small camera, which is great, versus having to rig up a full-size Lumix with all the extra monitors and everything else, which does sometimes intimidate people. So that's one of the advantages of going with this in a social media situation. Now, what are the advantages in the Lumix? You're going to get a larger sensor. You're going to get a full frame. You're going to get the ability to have a more truer 1.2 lens if you attach it to an L mount. But let's be real. If we're just talking what it's capable of doing for social media right away, the iPhone's going to win. And it's sad that it's come down to that, because my expectations of the iPhone was going to be better. I mean, of the Lumix was going to be better until I started diving into the specs. And I wanted the Lumix to be like the camera, because if you know anything about my past, I started with a Panasonic camera on my shoulder, and I was doing broadcasting education. I was doing live shows like this all the time, and it was a ton of fun. And we were doing this in the 90s, so you really just had like an analog live show and everything. To be able to do what I'm doing right now with a scene, an intro, and outro, put some images up, put logos up, lower thirds, and then have a ticker going. You couldn't do that in the past, but now we can. And with the technology too, we couldn't get a crisp image on something like this. Now we have a processor in here that could be like a desktop processor, which is a better processor than what's sitting inside of that Lumix. And I think that's the other part too. Like when you're talking about processing capabilities and you're talking about the ability to hook up a hard drive, the Lumix can hook up an external hard drive, but it cannot record onto that hard drive ProRes RAW. It just doesn't have the capability. It also doesn't have the capability of doing a 444 chroma set. Now, for most of y'all that are listening to this, a 444 chroma set means absolutely, utterly nothing because it's like numbers. Really, it is just math. The more of those numbers that are higher, the more colors you get. And iPhone able to produce more colors than Lumix can at open gate at their highest ratio, at their 60 frames per second, and having a more robust set of information to work with. In the end, you'll be able to get better commercial work. Now, a lot of y'all who are watching is going to think I'm absolutely crazy, but there's going to be somebody after seeing this video is going to go, I'm going to try this out. I'm going to take the Lumix and I'm going to take the iPhone. I'm going to put them in the same scenario. I'm going to put a 20 millimeter lens on the Lumix, and I'm going to put a 20 millimeter lens on the iPhone, which is its natural size lens. I think it's 22 or 23. And put a similar lens on the Lumix, and I'm also going to put a 100 millimeter lens on the Lumix, and I'm going to put a 100 millimeter lens on the iPhone, which is both of their native, it's iPhone's native lens, and then in RAW, and then they're going to go, oh, this might be true, especially if they go into the Blackmagic app. If you take the iPhone into the Blackmagic camera app, I'm telling you, as much as I am not a fan of Apple products, now get this right. You could talk to anyone in the studio that works with me. I am the least likely to buy an Apple product. Matter of fact, I bought an iPad and returned it. And they were like, we're going to do this photo thing and we need to use the iPad for it. We'll just go ahead and have you use your iPad for the snap pics. And I was like, no, I'm sorry. I returned that thing a while ago. And they're like, what? We thought you jumped over to Apple. I was like, no, I'm a Windows guy. I'm an Android person. I will be buying 3 of these iPhone 17 Pros specifically for interviews and small media stuff to A, fit in the budget of the people that they have now for these smaller things, B, have a great quality video to work with. And you do actually have to know how to use the video side of it because you can't just go auto and get the 3.2 ratio and make it look perfect. And 3, it's a small package. I can walk out with something like this and 3 little tripods and some small lights. I can put it all into a flight bag and do interviews any place in the United States, which is really cool, and have great views of everything. So wides and tights on everybody, and it's just gonna look great. Plus then I can take one of these and just do all my event footage. So it's amazing what we can do now with this and the way it's going. The Lumix, I want it to succeed, and I think it will. I think it's gonna do good. But I also think like people are going to start realizing like some of the social stuff and some of the things that are coming in, especially the 18-year-olds to 30-year-olds who are jumping into the industry now and are doing some of the social media video. They're going to grab these. They're going to grab Pro Pro 2 or DJIs, and they're just going to go out and make it work. And we're going to have to realize the Lumix is just not going to land right. And the commercial side, it'll do okay, but in the social media, small business, especially when someone's able to produce a better image with an iPhone. And that's the other reason why Sony didn't do this. Now I'm gonna hash over to Sony, and I'm gonna hash over to Canon for about 2 minutes here and explain something. Sony chose to stick with its 422 10-bit S-Log 3 because it's a quality standard that's exceptionally good. It's a 600 megabit per second, which keeps it in a reasonable size range for data and getting an All Intra. And it is something that is easy to manipulate and get great color with. Canon has gone with its raw light, which is at, I think, 1100 megabit. No, it's 60 frames per second. I think it's like 1500 megabits per second. It is a Canon Log 2, and it is a robust, really robust. If you're a colorist, you can really push those colors really extreme with that much data, and it's going to come out great. And this is at their top end stuff. So if you're like doing your top end 4K 60, 4K 60 deliverable footage, that is where those two are. Now, key this back to Lumix. Lumix is using an H.265 long up or group of pictures, group of photo version with a 420, not a 422, which gives you basically about half the colors or less than what Canon can produce, what Sony can produce for the same image. And not a true 60 frames, but it's a 60 frames, if you understand the group of picture thing, that is really like 8 frames per second. And then the rest is like copies that are semi the frame. So it's a little bit harder to edit with, a little bit harder to get all the colors you want with. And then we bring over the iPhone 17. The iPhone 17 Pro Max, it gives you 60 frames per second. It gives you a choice of flavors from ProRes to ProRes RAW, which means you've got 2 different levels of color, so 422, and then you got 444 chroma set, which means you're just going to have a tremendous amount of color. You will give up sensor size, so when we're talking noise, there's going to be one of the issues, and then when we're talking bokeh, that's going to be one of the issues. But a lot of people who are looking at social media are not looking for that filmatic thing. They're looking for that in bringing the group and everything. And this is where we have an issue with Lumix. Lumix limits you to 3.3K, and it should say we have a 3.3K perfect all intra, and then we have an option in the 6K. And a lot of the people who are talking about the Lumix and the 6K open gate, and like right now, this image is an open gate, 3:2 ratio, they aren't understanding that you're not getting all of the possibilities you could get out of the camera if it was a 422 10-bit all intra. And if it was that, I mean, it would be the new king. I don't think Canon would have a shot. I don't think Sony would have a shot. And sure as hell, iPhone 17 wouldn't have a shot. Now, for those on Facebook that are friends of mine, if you're looking to get your next phone that's just going to be great for socials, iPhone 17 Pro or a Samsung or a Google, which all of those are going to have flavors of 3x2, and all of them are going to have a really cool, like, doing social media stuff. For all those who are on LinkedIn, YouTube, and YouTube, if you're looking for your team that does social media, who are reaching out to people with options, the Lumix is a good camera, don't get me wrong. It's just there's going to be some deficits in what you can do in the high-end color ratio changes, especially if you're trying in log to hit a color scheme. And a lot of the people I work with will tell me they want like a teal look. Seattle has that teal color type thing. So shooting in an S log, I can always put a teal or whatever color log on LUT on there and get it going. As a matter of fact, some of the times they've already had a LUT that they worked with, and LUT is just a way of changing color from a grayscale, and they just send it to me. I put it on the monitor, and then I can see what it's basically going to look like as I'm shooting, and then turn it in, and then their guys can fine-tune the last little bits and magnifique. Apple ProRes RAW and Apple Log 2 can do the same thing. Canon Log 2 can do the same thing. Even in the All Intra 3.3 open gate for the Lumix it can, but when you start getting into the 6K 420, you're going to miss out on some of the stuff there because it's just not going to be as well put together color-wise, and I would love it to be. I mean, it's one of the brands that I started with. 1993 is when I started in my video productions classes, and Panasonic was the bomb, and Sony was the bomb, but you couldn't get it because it's high-end stuff. And now Panasonic has been really trying hard to catch back up to everything. And the S1 II versus an iPhone, I shouldn't be having this conversation. I shouldn't even be able to bring this up, that the chroma sets, the color possibilities, the ability for it to produce an image should not be possible on a phone to match or exceed a brand new $3,000 camera without a lens. And even on the heating side, an hour later, the iPhone's fine. I mean, of course, you're going to need a fan like this one here, but the Lumix got to have a fan too. And guess what? It still overheats sometimes. And it's less data. That's the thing that I don't even understand the overheating part with the Lumix, because the Lumix has a fan and it's pushing less data, but because it has to do so much computation to compress it into an H.265, into a lower chroma set of 420, it's producing more heat. It makes no sense. You should have just opened it up to a 422 All Intra, and you wouldn't have the heat issues. You wouldn't have the other pieces that go with it. And it's just absolutely, utterly surprising that I'm even able to have this conversation that an iPhone, a smartphone, can compete with a Lumix. And this is their top of the line Lumix. This should not be happening. This should be happening with like their mid tiers or their entry tiers, but this is their beast. This is their beast mode for video, and this should not be happening. Now, for those who are interested in doing more social media stuff, I'm going to tell you, get yourself a nice gimbal. These are around $200, $250, $300, and this will help you get, with your imaging and stuff like that for stabilization. Get an iPhone Pro. Spend a little bit of money on, or get an iPhone Pro or a Samsung Ultra, or get yourself a Google Pixel phone. Shoot an open gate, because guess what? They got the same chroma set as that Lumix, as the Lumix. This should not even, I should not be saying this. So this has the same chroma set as the Lumix. I don't get this. It has the same chroma set or better, and the same long op capabilities, a little bit less data. I'd say about half the data. You can get it from a Samsung S22, S24, a 25, and get a better codec sitting over in the iPhone. All right, well, anyway, I've had fun. I got a shoot to go to tonight. Actually, not a shoot. It's audio stuff we're going to be doing. It's going to be a really great experience. I'm hoping everybody's going to have a great time tonight. Our team's going to be out there, A.P.C. Photography, the Elite Collective, and we're going to be representing and doing great for the Seattle area. Thank you all for who did watch. There was a couple people who popped in and out. I'll be doing more and more of these shows as we go along. Mainly today, first off, happy holidays. Merry Christmas, so celebrate Christmas, and all the other holidays, which I don't know all of them. I'm a Christmas person, so whatever holiday you celebrate, happy holidays to you. If you're wondering what the tiger logo is, it's just one of my favorite animals on the planet. A.P.C. Photography, we do audio, photography, and cinematography. We do audio, photography, and cinematography. On the audio side, we do anything on the live audio side you absolutely need. Photography, we do all types of photography. We do weddings, we do event, we do step and shoots, we do fashion show, whatever you need, and sports. In cinematography, we cover every aspect of cinematography, from very simple stuff that would be like social media type, let's get it going type event, to broadcasting like I'm doing right here, which I'm doing a multicast. So we're casting right now in 4 different locations at the same time, which will be LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, and YouTube. We also do segments for news if you need that for your small or medium-sized channels or large channels. We help you with that so that you don't have to worry about consistency and products like that. We also help with producing. So if you have any questions, let me know. We do have a special going on right now coming into the new year. Anyone who's booking between now and January 30th, the end of January, can book out a program that's $250 per show. And this includes full producing, an hour of live streaming. You have up to 4 break periods in there. Those slots can be used for up to 2 minutes. And those slots can also be used for any of the sponsorships you have. There's some details when it comes to your sponsorship slots. It is contingent on an annual agreement of at least 2 shows per month, and all the details are available if you email me. Other than that, I want you guys to have an absolutely gorgeous day out here in the Pacific Northwest. I do know we've having to deal with all the rain and everything, so hopefully this kind of goes away. As for my thoughts on the Lumix and the iPhone 17, these are just my thoughts. I've watched a lot of people talk about some crazy camera comparisons, and so this is one that popped in my head because I do a lot of social media type stuff, and you know, when you're out there shooting with a smartphone that gives you open gate, that gives you 444 raw footage, and then you start looking into a camera that I was thinking about being one of the, you know, the cameras to give to or advise to our new people in the business, and find out that it doesn't have the right stuff for it. It kind of, you know, it gets the hype, and I get the social media hype, but it kind of makes me go, oh, y'all can make some hype, but you realize that the product's not really where you want it to be. I thank once again everyone for watching today. I definitely appreciate you. We're going to call it a day, and if there's anything else and any questions, let me know later on. For the next 30 seconds, we're fading out of here. So gotta go. Have a good day.